Hey guys, so today I am doing my labor and delivery story for you guys. Harley is actually sleeping over there in her rock and play, and Hayden is with his other grandparents, so I decided that now would be a good time to go ahead and sit down and tell you guys what happened and just how my labor went and everything. To start off, I was supposed to be induced Friday the 21st of July. I was supposed to go in at 5 a.m. and the night before, Hayden went to go stay with my parents, and we were kind of like anxiously like getting everything ready, and like we were like running around the house getting everything ready, and we stayed up until I think like midnight or maybe even 1, like at least 12:30, and it was so hard to sleep. Like knowing that you're going in to have a baby is so exciting, and we could not sleep. So we eventually finally laid down, and my husband went to sleep. I slept for like 2 hours, and I got up at 3, and by 3:30 I was actually like going to the bathroom, and they told us that if the hospital got really full or anything, that we would be getting a phone call telling us to hold off on coming in, and that they would let us know whenever they had room for us. So it was about 3:30, and I was gonna go ahead and wake up. We had to be there at 5. We were gonna wake up at 4, so it was 3:30, and I was like, I'm just gonna stay up and go ahead and get ready, and I was all excited. And even though I only got 2 hours of sleep, I was so excited, and like I was sitting there and my phone rang, and I noticed it was a number that I did not have in my phone, and I just knew that it was them, so I answered it, and they said that strangely enough, it is super busy at the hospital. They had like no room. I was the only induction planned for that day, and they had no room for me. Like everybody was coming in having babies, so that was honestly really upsetting. As soon as I got that phone call, I just felt, I don't know, like you would think that I'd be like, oh okay, like I'll just go to sleep and sleep in, and just, you know, they told me to just go about my day as normal, and that they would let me know when they had room for us. And at that point, I just had such a hard time sleeping. I was really bummed out. I think I slept like another hour or so, and I let my husband sleep. I went ahead and let him know, and let my parents know and his mom know. A quick text, hey, we're on hold, like, you know, nobody wake up super early or rush to the hospital or anything, you know, we're not going as of right now. And sorry about this lighting. I'm in my living room, and like clouds keep passing by, so it keeps like getting dark and light. So it comes to be like 8, 9 in the morning, and we still have not gotten a phone call. And I called back at 6:30, and they didn't really say to call back. They said that they'd call me, but I was so anxious and I wanted to know like, you know, like what's going on up there. So I went ahead and gave that number a call back at like 6:30, and they said that they were still busy, but that's when they told me that I was the only induction. So it made me feel a little bit better. And I just decided, like, our house was so clean, everything was ready, and I just like told my husband, I was like, look, I think I just need to get out of the house. Like, I'm super anxious awaiting this phone call. I think if we just like get out, go do something, take our mind off of it. So we went and had a big Waffle House breakfast, and it was super good. And I was like, if I'm about to go have this baby, you know, we may as well go have, you know, the breakfast of champions at Waffle House. And so it was kind of nice, like going on a little Waffle House day with him. Hayden stayed with my parents that morning, so we went there, and then we went to my parents' house and just hung out. We had family in town who had taken even off work for this induction, and I kind of was feeling bad because I know my sister works like 2 hours away pretty much, and she had like drove down the night before, taken off of work, and so I just felt pretty bummed out. And you know, as the day was progressing, I was just like, you know, she could have been here by now, we could have had this baby by now. And so it was just really hard, like staying calm and everything, and just trying to like relax about the situation. And plus, like not knowing when we were gonna get that call was really frustrating too, because I didn't know like what to do or when to expect it or anything. It was kind of like waiting for natural labor, I guess, is what it ended up turning out to be, not like this planned thing. So we pretty much waited all day at my parents' house. We did make a trip to Walmart to like walk around. I was having some contractions, so I was trying to, you know, walk and stay busy and see if maybe like that would not get me into labor, and maybe I'd just go into labor naturally and show up, and they'd have to keep me anyways. But yeah, we tried everything, and we were just hanging out, and finally we came back to our house. It was like 8, 9 o'clock. I think it was like 8 o'clock. We came back here. We left Hayden still with my parents after hanging out with him, of course, throughout the day. We decided to leave him there again because the doctor said it could be any hour of the night, you know, as long as we wanted to go in. And I said yes, we'd go at any time that they would allow us to. So we came back about 8 o'clock. We went on a short walk around the neighborhood because I was having contractions, and that made my contractions stop. So that kind of sucked. So it even bummed me out even more. And we came back, and we're just kind of like hanging out, and we were honestly like on our phones looking at Redbox movies. We were about to go just get a movie, and not gonna lie, I sat there and ate like an entire chocolate bar because I was just like upset, and that was my craving. So I ate like an entire chocolate bar. We're on our phones picking out Redbox movies, and the phone rings. So at this point, it was 9:45, and the nurse was like, hey, we have an opening, do you want to come in at 11 to be induced? And we were like, yes. So from that point on, we were so excited. Honestly, we're not even thinking we'd get a call that day. We kind of just, I don't know, like kind of like gave up. And so we quickly like took showers, got dressed and all that. My dad brought Hayden over real quick so I could like give him a big hug and just tell him, you know, goodbye, even though he'd be there in the morning anyways. But I needed a hug from my firstborn. And so we just kind of hugged our family, and we went off to the hospital. So we first got there, they checked us in, they put me straight into a labor and delivery room. And since I do have the group B strep, we had the plan to go ahead and start giving me the antibiotics with a little bit of Pitocin. So they did start the Pitocin with the group B strep antibiotics. And so yeah, so they went ahead and like got all my IVs, like got us all checked in and everything. We started the antibiotics around midnight, so it did take an hour for them to like start everything. My mom, sister, and my grandma, who flew in from Texas, they all showed up about 12:30 or so because they wanted to be there to support, which I thought was really nice of them. I know that they did not get any sleep that night, but it was good to have, you know, surrounded by all my girl family and my husband, of course, who stayed by my side. Fast forward a little bit, we got the first 4 hours dose of antibiotics done, and then they started another one, which I guess they just gave them to you every 4 hours. So after the first 4 hours, they started bumping the Pitocin every 20 minutes, I believe it was. And at one point, they came in, and I guess for like 2 contractions, baby girl's heart rate like dropped at the wrong part. They say they want to see it like beginning of the contraction or during one, that's okay, but it was like afterwards, I believe. I don't know, so that was a little bit scary. They said that everything was fine, they just wanted to like take back the Pitocin for a minute, like bump it down and see how she reacts to that. So after that, there were no issues with that, but that definitely did kind of worry me. And I feel like after having a natural, not like natural, I got an epidural, but like going to labor naturally with my son the first time, this was just such a different experience, and it honestly started to kind of stress me out. Seeing the contractions, how they were just so like fake. You know, it kind of stressed me out, and I started almost like doubting my decision, and I was like, oh no, like what am I doing? Like what if I have to have a C-section now because I'm like forcing her out, and what if she's not ready? And by the way, when I went in, I was still 1 centimeter dilated, which was so, no, she said like 1.5. It was like 1.5 centimeters, which was kind of upsetting because I had had so much like false labor scares throughout the week, and I was like, this has to be dilating me, but it obviously was not. And she was still super high up in my cervix, which was a bummer, and I was just kind of worried about that at that point, that maybe she was not ready and that she would not drop in time and everything. So yeah, the contractions from the Pitocin never hurt, which I thought was so weird. And because I know people say that, you know, Pitocin will make them hurt more and everything, and I know I didn't get my epidural too soon, but you know, obviously I'm sure they would have hurt if I did not get an epidural, but they never hurt during the whole time. And around 6:30 in the morning, I got my epidural, and this was one of the scariest parts to me, honestly, because I think especially since my contractions were not hurting, I was more worried about the epidural than anything. I wasn't like in so much pain where I was like, just give it to me, just do whatever you gotta do. I was definitely kind of working myself up about it a little bit and just ready to get it over with. So they told us that the anesthesiologist was one of the fastest, like best one out there, and that I'm so lucky that he was on call that night, or he was up there working. And so I was like, okay, you know, that's good. And when he came in, I was already like turned facing, you know how they face you like towards the wall. I was already like turned facing. I never even looked at this man in his face. And you know, Spencer's like in front of me, holding me, like looking at me, trying to keep me calm, and the nurse is there of course as well. And he came in and he was like, all right, we're gonna get this done, blah blah blah, I'm gonna tell you what I'm doing, like really fast. And I was like, okay, like cool. And then my nerves set in, and so I told him, I said, hey, you know, like I'm like talking like to this person behind me, and I'm like, hey, I just want to let you know I've had an epidural before, but I'm really anxious about this time, and you know, really nervous, and it's kind of freaking me out. And he was so rude. He did not say anything back really about that. He just kind of like mumbled something and like kept going. And the noises behind me, like when they say he's the fastest anesthesiologist, like oh my gosh, if any of you guys have anxiety or anything, like imagine being in a situation that you're already so nervous about, and then the person behind you is like rushing to do it. Like I was like hearing like all these things rip open, and he was like wiping my back, and before I knew it, he had it in. And you know, the epidural didn't hurt itself. It felt like a little bee sting. I wasn't too worried about that, but the way they were like ordering me around, I felt like I was at like a military camp or something, and that was just really scary. You know, I tell these people like, hey, like look, I'm really nervous, and they're just like, all right, stand up, sit up tall, you know, don't move, let me know if you feel this, let me know if you taste this, if you hear this, all these like things that scare me even more as I'm sitting there. And I just was like looking in Spencer's eyes, and he, oh my gosh, I think he felt so bad for me. Like it was terrible. Like it's gonna making me get emotional, honestly, just thinking about it. It was a really bad experience for me, and it did not help with my labor at all. So he did it so quick, and he even like dropped a box of like sharps or something, is what Spencer said. Like I hear like all these things like drop on the floor, and he's just like moving so quick. He taped me up so fast, and like I'm telling you this scenario, and I swear he was only in there for like 2 minutes. Like Spencer said the same thing. He was so quick. And yeah, so I don't know, which y'all will see in my postpartum update that I'm still kind of having some issues from that. So I'm like, well, maybe if you had taken your time, then I wouldn't be feeling these things. So I don't know. I was not very pleased with that experience, and it even got scarier because as soon as he left, you know, the nurse starts monitoring me, and she's suddenly goes like, her blood pressure's dropping. And I'm like, oh great. So my blood pressure dropped like significantly to where she like ran out of the room, got all this like medication, started like pumping it through my IV. And I don't know if it was like that or me reacting to the epidural, but I started like shaking uncontrollably. I could not stop, and I was so scared at that point, and I could like feel my blood pressure dropping. I just like felt so sick and scared, and I've already been laying back down. And I remember just like asking like, am I gonna be okay? Am I gonna be okay? And you know, they're like, oh yeah, like you should be fine. She's like looking, like she's taking my blood pressure like every 2 minutes, and she's like watching the screen, and I'm like trying to like observe her face. And I think Spencer got really scared too. The way he was like looking at me, he was so like loving, but I could like see that he was worried about me and everything. So yeah, that was a really scary part, and finally they got it under control. It did take a little while, and I think she even had to give me some more medicine. I don't even remember. Yeah, it was honestly one of the scariest experiences, and it only got worse from there. And so I am sitting there, I'm shaking uncontrollably, like I could barely talk. I was shivering. You know, I had like blankets on me, like trying to like keep me from shivering and everything. I don't know what was going on. My body was literally losing it. I felt like I was dying, and I just did not feel okay at all. And after that, another symptom from the epidural started and that my body got so itchy. I couldn't really feel anything, you know, of course, belly down, but like my boobs, my arms, my hands, my neck, my head, my face, everything was so itchy. And I was taking like those paper towels, like the scratchy kind of ones that they have in the hospital, like when you wash your hands. I was taking paper towel and like wiping it across my face because it was like scratchy feeling, and I was like scrubbing my body. I was scratching so hard. I don't even want to know what I looked like at that point, but I seriously think I looked like a meth addict or like a crack addict or whatever, because I was like shaking and like scratching so much, and it was the scariest feeling of my life. I think I felt like that for 2 hours, and I remember just like I could not calm down. I was freaking out. Even when I would like try to take deep breaths and just like calm myself down, like my body would like not let me. So I really don't know what happened, and I don't know if the shaking was from the epidural or maybe just me freaking myself out or whatever, but I'm telling you, like, no matter how hard I tried to calm myself down, I could not get rid of them. So after that point, they did come in and break my water, which they may have done that before the epidural. Honestly, it went by, everything was like went by so fast, even though we were there all night. So my water did get broken. There wasn't like a big deal there or anything. It just came in, popped it, whatever. So after that point, they started upping the Pitocin more, and I never felt any contractions, like I said. Yeah, nothing was painful. So we just kind of were waiting around, and they came in and checked me, and I was at a 3. So this was around, I think like 10 in the morning. They're like, oh, you're at a 3. Like, they put one of those peanut balls, like one of those big bouncy balls that's like kind of like squished. It's called peanut, they call it. They put one of those between my legs and kind of flipped me a couple times. They said it's really good for bringing baby down and into position. And I started getting really stressed out when they said I was still at a 3, and I was scared that I was going to have to get a C-section. So I started getting really worried and upset, and finally she came in again, and this was around like 11, and she came in again and she was like, you're still at a 3. And I was like, oh, well, great, this is great. So she left the room, and like 5 or so minutes later I started feeling pressure. And she had told me, of course, when I first got there, she said, hey, if you feel any pressure, let me know, you know, let me know ASAP. And I felt like a freaking idiot feeling that feeling, and even like telling my family. I was like, hey guys, like, kind of feel some pressure down there. I know I'm just at a 3, like I don't really know what's going on, but she told me to tell her. So, you know, do one of you guys want to go like catch the nurse? And my mom ended up being the one to go out there and get her. And she said that she felt like an idiot going out there, but she didn't tell me at the time, but she told me afterwards. She's like, I felt so stupid going out there and telling them that you were feeling pressure, because she had just said, you're at a 3, you're not advancing, you know, we're gonna have to bump up the Pitocin, try some other things. And so the nurse comes in and she texts me again, and she looks at me and she's like, oh, you're at a 10. And I was like, what? Like, I thought she was joking, and I was just like, started like laughing, and I was like, no, I'm not. And she's like, yes, you are. She's like, I would not be saying that if you weren't. And I was like, I just remember I kept just being like, no, I'm not. Like, there's no way I'm at a 10. And I fully dilated like super freaking fast, and she dropped, you know, everything, whatever. She just like was ready to go. So that kind of freaked me out. This kind of happened with my son too, but definitely not that quick. Like, I went from like a 7 to a 10 fast with my first labor, but this one was like so much crazier. Like, so she gets on the phone, she rings to the doctor like, hey, you know, we're ready for you, like, you know, come on in whenever. And she decides to do a practice push. She's like, hey, let's do a practice push. She's like, oh, yep, you're ready, all right, and runs out of the room. Like, all the baby stuff starts getting wheeled in, all these people start coming in, and yeah, it was crazy. I remember just being in so much shock, and everyone's just like, wow, like, what is going on? And everything went by so fast. Within 5 minutes, I started pushing at 11:12, and she was born at 11:17 in the morning. I think I only pushed like 3 or 4 times, and she was out. It was the craziest experience of my life. And like, I had the mirror that I was like kind of looking at. I don't know, I didn't really know if I wanted to see or wanted to focus on pushing. And what was awesome was that I actually got to feel the pushes and feel her come out, which I know sounds weird. A lot of people don't want to feel, but with my son, I was so numb. I did not feel it at all. And so I was honestly pretty excited. I felt her. I didn't feel like pain, but I could feel everything. And that was really awesome to be able to say that I had felt her coming out. And as soon as she came out, or as soon as her head was out, like I was just like, is she okay? Like, because she didn't cry yet. And then like thankfully 30 seconds later she did. And then, you know, he just was like, it was the easiest thing. Like the doctor literally just stood there and was just like, all right, baby, like born, like here's your baby, like puts her on me. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. And she was crying. And I really loved that they did not take her straight away from me at all. They just like put her on my chest, like, you know, put her skin to skin automatically and sucked her out, did everything they needed to do immediately right there. Spencer cut the cord, and it was just such a magical moment to be surrounded by all your family when baby girl was born. And you know, I started crying, Spencer starts crying, you know, we're just like, oh my gosh, she's here. And finally, I think they even let me like breastfeed first before they took her to do anything, which is really awesome. She latched on so quick. She did a little bit on both sides. It was perfect. Everything went great. And then they finally were like, okay, well, do you want us to take her and weigh her? And I was like, okay. Like, I swear I held her for like 20 minutes before they even pushed or asked to take her, which was awesome because I know most nurses just want to get their hands on the baby, get everything done so that they can go. So it was really nice, and I am super happy and blessed that they did let me have that time with her. Nobody even got to hold her first. I got to breastfeed. Like, it was nice, you know, to carry her for that long and then get to enjoy those minutes with her. And everybody was taking photos for me, and it was great. So they took her, they weighed her. She was 7 pounds and 19 inches long. And so then this is when it like kind of got like scary or like real. Obviously everything was okay at this point, but I hear them go, oh, did you see this? And I'm like, what? Like, I'm like looking around, and they have her umbilical cord like sticking up. I will insert a picture right here for you guys what it looked like. So that was so scary, and she had a knot in her umbilical cord, and I didn't really know what that meant. I know that a lot of babies are born with like cords wrapped around their neck or something like that, and so, you know, it wasn't wrapped around her neck at all. It was just like in a knot. And the doctor explained to me that that was very dangerous for when the baby is in utero, like in your tummy still. And he said that it is such a blessing that I did decide to be induced, because if she were to have been in my tummy, you know, there was still like another week for her due date. I don't know when she would have naturally decided to come on her own, but he said that if she had like tightened that knot anymore, that it would have cut off all of her blood flow, and that she would not have made it. And so it was just really scary. And he pretty much told me, like, you know, this is a miracle, it's a miracle baby, and that, you know, she was definitely meant to be here because of that. So I'm just so thankful that we did decide to be induced. I know that we were kind of on the fence about it, and I didn't want to, you know, hurt her or force her to come out, and because of the grippy strep we did decide to. But I'm just so thankful that we did, because I cannot imagine if anything had happened, you know, because she was so active the last couple days, and if she had done anything else to that knot, that she would not be here today. So yeah, we are just so thankful. And you know, she was perfect, no health problems really. They were worried a little bit about jaundice, but I'll get more into that in my postpartum / 1 week baby update. I would take the epidural drama and all those symptoms and everything all over again to make sure that I had gotten her out. It was all well worth it, and I'm just so happy that she's here and healthy, and I just cannot imagine it going any other way. It's just terrible to think about. So yeah, that is my labor and delivery story. I was in labor total, let's see, 12 to 11, so like 11 hours, but really none of it was, you know, a lot of it was just getting the medicine and everything. And then once my water was broken around 6 in the morning, it was like 5 hours until she was born, and I pushed for 5 minutes and she was out. So it was a very fast labor in my opinion, and everything went by super fast, and I'm so glad that the outcome was well and that we have her here. So that is my labor and delivery story. I hope you guys enjoyed listening to it. I'm sorry I did not get to vlog. Like I said, it was just a really like long process, and like once I think we didn't end up getting to go on Friday, that it was just kind of like bummed us out, and I really wasn't even in the mood to film, and it was so dark all night. Like while I was in labor, it just would have been hard to do anyways. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you in some of my other videos. I'm gonna do some updates and all of that, so stay tuned for more on me and baby girl, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.